am just imploring any tech innovator to please join us and bring us clean mobile power and bring it to us quickly.
Hi, I'm Zena Harris, a founder and entrepreneur working in the entertainment industry for more than 10 years now.
And I'm Mark Rabin, a two-time founder and innovator in the energy tech industry and spent the last decade powering films, events, and festivals with renewable energy.
Welcome to the best of the tie-in.
We're delighted to have HBO's True Detective Night Country executive producer, Mari Jo Winkler-Ioffreda, with us today. Mari Jo will be interviewed by Zena Harris, president of the Green Spark Group, a green production advisory firm. Please welcome Zena and Mari Jo.
So let's talk about True Detective Night Country. So how did you learn about this project? How did it come to be? What did you first talk about with the studios?
Great. Well, I was looking for a project and have made a commitment to only working on projects that have a climate environmental component to them, and very interested in working with female creators and directors and showrunners. And I was introduced through HBO to Issa Lopez to become a creative partner for her, to be the boots on the ground person who is taking the project from the scripts that she had at the moment that I met her, which was a pilot script and some drafts of the other episodes, through delivery and launch of the show. And so, for those of you who haven't seen the show, True Detective is about two female detectives who are solving a crime in the high Arctic of Alaska, centered around a science research facility that is tangential to a mine that is toxically polluting an indigenous community. In addition, there's a cold case of a missing and murdered indigenous woman. So it's a very intersectional story, and really fulfills all of my requirements of the kinds of content I want to produce.
So you learned about the production. You want to do content that has meaning. Then as an executive producer, what are you looking for when, in a location, in how you're going to set it up from the very beginning? What do you do? What do you look for?
Well, it was interesting. The HBO production department had done some preliminary research. The story takes place in the high Arctic of Alaska. They had looked at Alaska, they had looked at parts of Canada, and they looked at Iceland. And when I came on board, my process is to sort of evaluate where is the most infrastructure, where what does it visually give us, and does it fulfill the sort of vision that the showrunner and director had? And when I met Issa, I said, well, we need to go to Alaska. She hadn't been to Alaska. So we took a trip to the high Arctic, to Kotzebue and Nome. Kotzebue is 29 miles above the Arctic Circle. It was minus 22 degrees on our scout. And we all stood there soaking in the environment, but going, there's no way we could put cast and crew out in these elements for any length of time on a large-scale production. Canada was compelling. However, the areas that look like Alaska had similar problems where they were inhospitable from a weather standpoint and very taxing on fly. You could only fly to these locations. So it would have been an enormous carbon emissions and an enormous carbon footprint to contemplate that. So what Iceland gave us was landscapes that were very similar to what we were seeing in Alaska: snow, ice, and a lot of our locations were within a 30-minute drive from a city center. And they had just increased their tax credit to 35%. So that sort of sweetened the deal. They have a very young and burgeoning film industry, but really hardest working local crew that I've ever seen. And they know how to work in those elements. But it was still cold. I mean, we were shooting in 22 degrees instead of minus 22 degrees and, suiting up in Arctic jumpsuits. And we filmed for 2 months in the dark, in the snow, in the ice, in January and February.
Okay,
Yeah.
so decided on Iceland.
And, and really I look at, is there local crew? Can we avoid flying everybody in? Do they have resources? Do they have equipment? Not wanting to, transportation is one of the biggest emitters of emissions. So you want to try to limit as much as you can. We still had to bring people in, but I think we did a lot better in Iceland than we would have elsewhere.
So it was pretty easy to start planning those sustainable production practices given the infrastructure of Iceland.
Right. And then the other bonus to Iceland is that the country is run on 100% clean energy. So 63% of that energy is geothermal and the rest is hydroelectric. And the entire country is wired and set up for EV vehicles. We had over 40 EV vehicles that we rented for cast and crew. We saved about 4,000 gallons of gasoline by renting EV vehicles, and the people who live in Iceland it's the way of life for them. So there was an openness to, I came in and sort of had a talk with everyone and said, we are going to implement sustainability. HBO put resources into it. We had a wonderful director of sustainability named Heidi Kinberg, and I worked in tandem with her to really source how we were going to do this. We used a lot of batteries. We were looking for a battery powered generator. And they did not have one in Iceland, but one of the facilities managers was interested in investing in one. So he purchased one for the show. And now that electric battery power generator lives in Iceland and has been utilized on other productions. So conversations and communications up front with everyone, and also staffing and making sure that you have a staff on the ground that can help facilitate the integration of sustainability.
So that's a lot right there.
Sorry.
What was the
Stop me.
No, that's great. So it sounds like with EVs and geothermal and whatnot, how did that affect the carbon footprint?
Yes, our carbon footprint was a lot lower in Iceland than it would have been in other places. And Heidi actually did a study and took our carbon emissions, our footprint, and then took and did an analysis of other areas that we could have shot in the US, Alaska, Canada, and it would have been 2 or 3 times more than it was in Iceland due to clean energy. Anytime we were shooting on our stage facilities or indoors and were able to tie in, we were plugged into the clean energy grid. So you can imagine the bonus of that. And it was quite aspirational, right? I mean, we were all living in this extraordinary country with clean air, clean water, low emissions, and it felt like this is possible. And what we really need is government support. We need investment, and we need technology to catch up.
So with this ethos that you brought and the support of HBO, can you tell us about how the crew responded?
Yes, the crew was amazing. I don't think there's anyone what I usually do is I talk to the creative department heads who I'm very close with in the early days of setting up the show. And then we start to talk to their crews and the rest of our crew, and we message and we we alert everyone that this is how the production is going to run. We do a lot of emails and messaging, and here are the protocols, and here are things to think about. Heidi was very instrumental, and she then took it to a granular level with every department and walked through with them the possibilities of what they could do. And everyone in Iceland, again, like I said, it's a way of life there. So they really embraced it. And so did we had crew from the UK as well, and some Americans. And there's not really these days, there's really no pushback. We're also seeing, especially in the United States, that the unions and crew members are now, there's a sort of rising of crew who are asking for cleaner sets and sustainability and new technologies, because we're all working on these sets that are, spewing fossil fuel emissions, and it's not healthy. And we need to change.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We'd love for you to like, subscribe, and share. We do this because we love doing it. We believe in what we're doing, and we believe in the amazing guests that we have. So please share this with a friend and a colleague and spread the word.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Social media is by Sharon Ewan. Our editor and producer is Rachel Werbel.